Hi. All right, without further ado, I'm just going to start with the class because I believe that we have time, a lot of time has actually gone, and so I'm just going to start with the class. Pardon me. Um, yeah. Hi. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. So for a while, you may not be seeing my face. You may not. I will not be seeing you rather. So please, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat box. If you have anything, please drop them in the chat box. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Let's start. How to write for children. Tapping into a wealthy industry with Omotayo College show. My name is Omotayo College and I'm your tutor for today. Get ready to learn a whole lot. So yes, the types of children's books. Children's books are not classified as fantasy, thriller, mystery, and the likes, unlike adult books. Now, adult books are usually classified according to, you say, I want to get a fantasy novel, I want to get a thriller novel, I want to get a mystery novel. Children's books don't work like that. Although these elements play out in children's books. So for instance, if you're writing a book about magic, if you're writing a fairy tale book, you're going to see fantasy. If you're writing a book about children looking for their friend or looking for someone who is lost, that is a bit of thriller and mystery. They have these elements there. But when classifying children's books, you don't classify them according to this. Instead, you classify them according to the ages of children. Books are thus written to cater to the needs of a particular age range, which will serve as the author's target audience. Now, the first kind of children's book we're going to talk about is picture books. Picture books are written for ages 0 to 6. They rely heavily on illustrations and words to tell a story. The word count is between 50 to 500 words, and they must have well-defined characters and storytelling elements. Now, one thing that is important to note about picture books is that the illustrations and words are symbiotic. They have a symbiotic relationship. If the text is too independent of the picture of the illustrations, it is not a good picture book. And if the illustrations are too independent, they tell all of the story without the text, then it is not a good picture book. Both of them have to go hand in hand. They must have well-defined characters and storytelling elements. Now, because you're writing a picture book does not mean you shouldn't have a setting. It doesn't mean that your characters shouldn't have a place they are from. Your characters, we shouldn't know the ages of your characters. We shouldn't know the size of your characters. We shouldn't know things about them. You're just writing a picture book, just putting pictures in our faces. We don't know who you're talking about. We don't know what you're talking about. You have to have a conflict. It's something that happens that changes the spell of the story. Oh, is this child in danger? Or, this child had a fight with their friend and they don't know if they'll still be friends again. All of those things are important in writing for children. The next thing that we want to look at these examples, for instance, Mason put on his jumpsuit, his helmet and gloves. Then he carefully checked out the car that he loves. In the image, you can see him checking the car. We can see him in his jumpsuit and helmet. The next page says he got out his license, with photo and name. He was ready to ride on the road to fame. There's a driver's license in the picture. Mason is holding up the driver's license. Can you see how the illustration is symbiotic with the text? Now look at this next example that says, poor old Fox has lost his socks. In the image, we can see the socks at the edge of his bed looking like he lost something, with clothes scattered around. And the next page was seeing a box open. That box is probably filled with his clothes. Is actually filled with his clothes. You can see one sock hanging out. Now, if you look closely at the image, in the first page, you see a sock, a blue sock lying by the side of the bed. And the second image, you see a blue sock hanging from the drawer. The illustration has managed to tell a story that one sock is in one side of the room, and the other sock is by the drawer. And the text is the one that told us in the first place that he lost his socks. Can you see the relationship? With the text, we know what to expect. We are like, oh, he lost his socks. But with illustration, it also continues the story. That's where his socks is. That's where the missing socks is. Can you see how it is a great symbiotic relationship? All right, so I want to be sure that you are following. Yes, hello, peace. I'm so sorry. Network got cut off. but I hope you're listening. I hope you're here, and I hope you are. Yes, I hope you're paying attention. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. All right, so I am going to continue. If you have any questions, please leave it in the chat box. I'd really love to hear your questions or comments or anything. So let's get back to the topic. So yes, the next kind of topic, what next thing we're seeing is early readers. Next type of children's book, early readers. Early readers are written for ages 6 to 7. They rely on illustrations and words to tell a story, but they have more words than picture books. And the word count is between 2,000 to 5,000 words. It helps children build their reading skills. Now, something that you must know about early readers is, although they have illustrations, the illustrations need not necessarily have a symbiotic relationship with the text. We will see that in examples shortly. Because they are older, of course, they're expected to advance. They're expected to read more words and build their reading skills. Look at this example. The little red hen said to the duck and the pig and the cat, who will help me plant the wheat? In the image, we can see the wheat seeds. We can see the little red hen and a hoe. The picture is not necessarily showing us how the little red hen is planting or anything. It's just showing her holding that stuff. It doesn't mean if the difference, the difference between this and picture books with the fox is that the story with the fox told the story with the illustration. Look at the next page. It said, not I, said the dog, not I, said the pig, not I, said the cat, and I'll plant the wheat myself, said the little red hen. And she did. In this page, we see the cat, pig, and duck lying down. We don't see them saying, not I. We don't see them talking. We don't see an illustration of them having a conversation with the little red hen. We just see them lying down. So we know that they are saying, not I, probably because they are lazy or they want to sleep. It doesn't have the same symbiotic relationship. There's a whole lot of difference there. Look at this example. Once upon a time in a land far away, a king and his daughter lived in a castle near a very big pond. The princess liked to sit by the pond and play with her golden ball. It was her favorite toy. Now, in this example, everything that was described in the text is also in the illustration. Unlike a picture book where it is not necessarily everything that is described, but it has to follow. The story has to follow. So let's imagine that this was a picture book that is saying once upon a time there is a princess's daughter and everything. In the picture, instead of us seeing the exact same thing that was described, for instance, we may see a little dog by her, but at her back. That little dog in the next page to tell a story. Maybe it was a lost dog that was following her that she found. The story will continue with that image. Can you see how different these things are? So yes, the next kind of children's book that we have are chapter books. So I'm going to check if my network is still connected because I don't want the same things to repeat itself. All right, we're still connected. I hope you're following. Please, if you're following, let me know. Say hi. I'd really love to hear that you're saying hi. All right, let's continue. Then we have chapter books. Chapter books are written for ages 7 to 9. They have longer blocks of text than other books, and they have fewer illustrations. These illustrations are usually sketches. The word count is between 5,000 to 10,000 words, and with these, children can read more sentences at once, and it improves their speed. So they are no longer dependent on illustrations. They like to see the illustrations. They want to see the pictures. Oh, I like these pictures. But it doesn't necessarily tell a story. It's not needed per se to tell a story, though it is important for it to be there so that the children can relate. And so the children are not intimidated by extensive blocks of text. So look at this example. As you can see, there are sketches in this place. The font size is large, which means that there are actually few words on this screen, but the font size is large and the sketches are scattered. Look at this example too. In the second image, we can see how there are about 4 sketches on the same page, but then there are still blocks of text scattered around. So yes, Our next example is middle grade books. Middle grade books are written for ages 9 to 12. By this time, they are grown up, and a 9-year-old is probably in GSS 1, 9 or 10 is in GSS 1. So, of course, they're expected to be able to read on their own. They are now advanced at reading prose. They don't need adults to read aloud with them. Their books even have fewer sketches, which may be sporadically scattered around the book. So, for instance, in a middle grade book, in the first chapter, you can just see the illustration by the chapter 1, and the next time you see an illustration is chapter 2, the heading of chapter 2, or you see illustrations every 10 pages or every 15 pages. They are not necessarily, without them, the readers are not disinterested from reading the book. The readers can still continue the books, though it will be nice to see 1 or 2 images once in a while. Do you understand the difference? All right, now look at this example. You only see the illustration at the top, and you can see the blocks of text. Look at this example too. You only see this illustration at the bottom, and you probably may not see any illustrations for the next few pages. Now, the last type of children's books we have are young adult books. Young adult books are written for ages 12 to 14 and above. And this is the final stepping stone to adult literature. Now, the thing about young adult books is everyone reads them, including adults. 20-something-year-olds, 30-something-year-olds, 40-something-year-olds, 50-something-year-olds read young adult books, because young adult books are very, very similar to adult novels. Very similar. They have the same amount of word counts, which is basically 50,000 to 100,000 words. And they address similar issues. Now, the only difference is that young adult novels or young adult books address these issues in a milder manner. For example, the issue of attraction and sex. Now, in an adult novel, if they are describing attraction or a sex scene, there are going to be heavier themes, heavier things going on, steamier things going on in an adult novel. But in a young adult novel, it's mild. They're talking about attraction, crushes, and even if there is a sex scene, it is not explained, it is not detailed. It's just, oh, they made love and then they move on or something like that. Nothing too deep, nothing too crass. So a lot of people, young adult books actually appeal to a very wide audience. For example, The Fault in Our Stars. If you haven't read the book, you have probably watched the movie. The Darkest Minds. If you haven't read the book, you have probably watched the movie. The Hunger Games, same. All of these are young adult novels that appeal to young people, but also appeal to adults. All right, so any questions so far? So the next topic we're talking about is how to write memorable books for children, the first step to tapping into a wealthy industry. And this is what I explain it as. One of my favorite books in the world is probably one of my favorite authors, probably Enid Blyton. And I remember all of her books because I read all of them. I think I can boldly say I read all of them. I read all her Famous 5 series, Secret 7 series, her short stories, everything basically. And I can still remember a lot of the stories. Like, I can still remember them because these books were special, they were memorable, and they were well written. So what makes a book memorable? That, you know, after a while, people will still remember those books. The first question you want to ask yourself is, why am I writing this book? Why are you writing a children's book? Without a sincere motivation, when things get too tough, you find that you get frustrated, burned out, and might quit writing the book. Why are you writing the book? Are you writing the book just to make money? Making money is not a bad thing. Making profits is actually beautiful. Everyone likes making profits. I love making profits. But that cannot be your only motivation. If you have the mentality that, you know, writing a children's book is so easy, there's nothing difficult about it, you know, it's for children, what's the big deal? I'll just whip up something together and just write it and boom, I'll be done. You are doing yourself a great disservice and a great disfavor, because you'll find out that you will get tired. You will get tired in the long run, because Children's books are just as stressful as writing for adults. You have to have the right storytelling elements. You have to have conflict where things change. So, for instance, you're writing a children's book about a child that loves fighting or loves arguing with their sister or their sibling or something, and they keep arguing with their sibling, and that is just how it goes till the end. Somebody just say, oh, I'm not going to argue with my sister anymore. What? Why? What caused the change? What made the character change their mind? What led to the change of heart? Something had to have happened. They can't just come to they'll just come to a point and say, no, you know what, I'm not going to fight anymore. Or I'm not going to argue anymore. Those are the kind of things you have to bear in mind and think about while writing for children. The next thing we're going to talk about is all the top authors have one thing in common. Their books are great and memorable. What does this mean? One, their books take children on adventures and great experiences. Like I said, your book is not just bland. A child should be able to read your book and have images in their mind, images that take them on adventures, images that, make them happy. Oh, the princess has fallen into the water. Or, oh, the princess found a frog in the water. What's she going to do with the frog? Something that sparks curiosity in them. It is their own suspense. They want to know what the princess is going to do with the frog. They want to know who is going to go and take the walking stick and give it to the old man. Those things are experiences for children. You are taking them on adventures. The next thing is their books don't dumb down or talk down to children. There's this thing that we do with children. We're like, da da da, hi, da 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 da, hello baby. Because we kind of think children don't understand what we are saying. But over the past few years, scientists have actually found out that the smarter children are children who, like, people have a conversation with, people talk to normally. In your books, if you assume that children are not smart, and because of that you dumb down children, you put clumsy sentences, your sentence structure is so clumsy, so poor, all because they are children and trying to get to their level, you're going to end up having a very bad book, a terrible book. The next point is that books are loved by children and entertain adults. Who buys the children's books? Adults. Who invests in children's books? Adults, not children. Children don't have money. So if an adult is reading your book and they find no reason to read your book, it doesn't look interesting, the cover is awful, the story doesn't tell any interesting story, they're not going to buy it. And now another thing you must remember is children often read books with adults, whether in school or at home. These adults have to read your books too. So if the book is not interesting, if the book is boring, they probably won't ever come back to buy your other books, or they'll just find a way to throw the book out. The next point is children's books teach valuable lessons. What lesson are we learning from your book? Are we learning, oh, I should have a sense of adventure. I should not be narrow-minded. I should be kind. I should be loving. I should be caring. All of those things. What is your book teaching children? The next point is the characters in their books are relatable. Children want to see a character that they can relate to. For instance, a problem that a lot of children go through is being in a class with a student that, oh, is really doing well, and maybe they are not doing as well. And they are beginning to feel bad. Oh, why is Bode doing so well? And you as the author writes a book about a character that feels the same way. But through the character, you are able to teach the child that, don't place your self-worth on this. This is not who you are. You're not this person because you're not doing as great as Bode. You're special, you're smart. A child can relate to that. That child like, oh my God, this person is going through the same experience and I'm going through too. Wow. The next thing is their books can be read over and over again. So why would your book be read over and over again? What makes it so interesting? You have to look at those things. And last but not least, they are not scared to write about different ideas. Now, we're going to talk about this extensively. They are not scared to write about different ideas. You may be transitioning from writing books for adults. There is a high chance that you think your ideas cannot fit in for children's books. This is incorrect. What does this mean? You know, when you're writing a book for adults, you're probably writing about a heavy subject like love, heartbreak. And you're like, children cannot relate to heartbreak. How will I write a book about heartbreak for children? I'm here to tell you that there is no idea that cannot be written for a child. Heartbreak doesn't necessarily have to be between a couple. Heartbreak can be about a child that is going through a rough time because their parents are getting divorced. Parents do get divorced, and there are children that experience that. And it will be so great if they read a book that can relate, of a character that relates to them. Of course, you will not use the same language. You will not use the same heavy themes that you use in your adult novel for children. But you can always work around it. You can always tell the story in a way that that child sees themselves in that book. Ideas, other ideas, religion. If you're writing about religion for adults, you're probably going to write something deep, extensive. But you can talk about Jesus. You can talk about faith. You can talk about whatever faith, whatever religion you practice in your children's books. Make it simple for them to understand. Make it easy for them to understand. So no idea is invalid. No idea is useless. Just open your heart and get ready to explore. You will learn so much and you see so much. The next thing we're going to talk about is the 5 milestones. So the following is a story structure that is a skeletal framework that has been tried and tested in thousands of books and has helped writers create memorable stories with ease. So like we're saying, how to create memorable stories. Now, what is a story structure? A story structure is a skeletal framework. For instance, I am a human being and I have a skeleton. It is my skeleton that is holding together my flesh. I can talk, I can move, I can see, because there is a skeleton holding all of this together. Without this skeleton, I'll be a puddle of flesh. It is the same with your story structure. Without the story structure, it will just be ideas. Nothing is conjoining them together. You're not building that story on something. So a story structure is a skeletal framework, something that brings the story together, something that the story is built upon. Now, the 5 milestones. This particular story structure has been used in several children's books and has helped authors to create memorable and beautiful stories. And these are: 1, we're going to start from the bottom, the setup. The setup is the backstory. What is different? So let's use the example of the hen. The story that we saw, the hen that was trying to plant wheat seeds. And, she called her friends. So the setup, the backstory, she called her friends. Oh, come and plant these seeds with me. Let's do this thing together. And they're like, no, I can't. Please let me know if you're still following. Please, if you're still here, please send a message in the chat box. Let me know if you're still following. All right, so I'm just going to continue. The setup, it says the backstory. So that is the backstory. That is, in quotes, the start of the story. Let us plant this thing together. And they are saying, no, we're not going to plant it together. It moves to the next point. Next point is the inciting incident. The event that creates a definitive change/conflict. So the inciting incident, she has planted it and she has begun to water it, and the seeds have begun to sprout. And the friends come, oh wow, your seed is sprouting, your plant is growing. You know what? When your plant grows and it produces fruits, I will eat out of it. That is a conflict. And the friend is like, but you didn't plant it with me. Why would you want to eat it with me? That is a conflict at that point. That is an event that has changed the course of the story. Now, the next thing, the first slap, where the character has to do something to overcome an obstacle or conflict. Now, the friend gets angry at this point and is like, how can you say this to me? Are we not friends? Why won't you allow me to take out of your fruits when it grows? Why would you say I can't take out of it? You know what? If If you don't want me to take out of it, that means we're not really true friends or something like that. Now, that is an obstacle. The person likes their friend, doesn't want to lose the friendship, but he's saying, you didn't help me to plant this thing, so I don't want you to eat out of it. Now, the second slap, when the character faces a greater obstacle, but now there is hope. Now that friend also goes back to think about it. You know what? I wasn't being a very good friend, and comes back to the character. Hi, I'm sorry for what I said. What I said was poor. You know what I said was not good at all. I shouldn't have done that, right? So should I cut off the friendship? Should I not do this? But now there is hope. There is hope because the friend has come to talk by herself and said, you know what I did was not nice. And the person goes away. Now we now have the climax. The climax is when the character succeeds, overcomes all obstacles, and learn an important lesson. So the person is like, the character is like, you know what? My friend has been with me for a very long time. We've been there together through thick and thin. This person offended me, but that is not enough for me to just say, no, I'm not being friends with this person again. Because offenses come, and that is the lesson that the person is learning. Offenses come, but you know what? I have to forgive my friend. And that character has learned an important lesson of forgiveness in the book. Can you see how from this, having the backstory, the inciting incident, first slap, second slap, and the climax, you can build a complete story? Very, very helpful. Let's move on. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about is publishing and making income from writing for children. But if you have any questions, please ask your questions. I'd love to answer your questions. Let me know if you have any questions. Please ask your questions. All right. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is publishing and making income from writing for children. There are three important factors. One, the kind of publishing you choose. Two, the illustrator for your book. And three, your marketing strategies. So one, the kind of publishing you choose. There are three types of publishing. We have traditional publishing, self-publishing, and hybrid publishing. Traditional publishing is when traditional publishers, big publishing companies, acquire your book and they publish it for you. You get royalties. So that means you only get little out of, you don't get all of the profit, you get little out of the profits. But the advantage of being with traditional publishers is you're with a reputable company, you're with a company that has built a name over years. So their readers are likely to say, oh, you know what? This person has built a name, this company has built a name. For this company to be publishing this person, that means this person's book is awesome. But traditional publishers get to pick books from submissions. You're not the one that will tell them that, oh, publish my book. You submit your book, they consider your book, and if they like your book, they decide to publish your book. That's the thing about traditional publishers. We have self-publishers. That's when you decide to do everything yourself. You employ the editor, employ the book cover designer, employ the printers, everything that goes into publishing. You get an ISBN. You do all of that by your own self. Nobody else involved, just you. That is another option. And the thing about self-publishing is by the time you're making all of the profits, you make all the profits for yourself. You don't have to share the profits, and then you can call the shots. You can say, you know what, I'm tired of printing this book. You know, I don't want this book to be in print anymore. Let's cut it off, or let's continue to print this book. You call the shots. You are not at the mercy of traditional publishers who can say at any time, this book is not selling the way we want it to sell. Cut it off. You're not at their mercy. The third type of publishing is hybrid publishing, which is very similar to self-publishing, but this time, instead of going through the stress of getting a printer, editor, marketer, or all of those things by yourself, you contract people to do it. You give it to this company does it for you. You're not stressed. All you know is that you tell them, oh, I want my book out in 3 months, 4 months. Your book is out. You sell your book and you make all of the profits, because you would have initially, the same money you spend on printers, all of that, you just give it to them and they do all of the stress for you. So you don't have to be worried that you're picking a bad illustrator or you're picking a bad printer, or you don't have to be running up and down in case, printer, don't disappoint me, this one, that one. You don't have to worry about all of that. Hybrid publishers do that for you. So that is what to consider when you're publishing for children and trying to make money. I personally subscribe to self-publishing and hybrid publishing. Why? For a couple of reasons. A lot of people used to prefer traditional publishing because traditional publishers are supposed to market the books in their care or market the books they published vigorously. But these days, traditional publishers don't market. In fact, they look for already established authors. They look for authors that have a lot of followers already on social media or on blogs, on websites, people that have a huge following that will sell the book for them. All they have to do is put out the book and say, oh, I've written a book and all of that. Because the stress of marketing, they don't want to take it on. So I would advise that you self-publish or you use hybrid publishers. There are so many good ones you can find on Instagram and other social media sites. The next thing you want to consider is the illustrator for your book. All right, so who should your illustrator be? Your illustrator should be someone who tells stories with art and someone who can share your vision with you. Someone who, if you tell the story that I want this thing to happen, they can picture it and write it in art. They're not just artists. Artists are different from storytellers. These are people, again, I will refer you back to the example of the fox, where you could see one sock by one corner of the room and the other sock on the drawer. The artist told a story. Poor old fox was looking for his socks, but they were not lost. He just misplaced them. Those are the kind of illustrators you need. Illustrators that are willing to tell a story, especially if you're writing a picture book. And someone who can share your vision with you. Where can you find affordable illustrators? Any freelancing site or Instagram. You can check upwork.com, freelancer.com, any of those places, and you find good illustrators. That is if you're self-publishing. If you're hybrid publishing, you do not have to worry about that. Your hybrid publishers will take care of that. And if you're traditionally publishing too, you don't have your followers or the people that surround you to feel like they were part of the process and they feel obliged to buy the book. The second thing is use social media a lot, as most parents are millennials. Most people that are buying books for their children are young people on social media. Your social media page must be great. It must be interactive and use that a lot. 3, go to gatherings filled with adults that have relationship with children, e.g. PTA meetings in schools. You can ask principals or vice principals for permission that you want to talk to parents about your books. You want to do all of those things, especially if it's books that teach children a good lesson. 4, create and build a mailing list. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this. Mailing lists are important. Mailing lists are great because mails are a very sustainable form. If there's no social media today, how do you communicate with your audience? And 5, place your book in local and international physical and online bookstores. So place your book in bookstores around Nigeria. Internationally, use Amazon Kindle. Those are online platforms. Amazon Kindle, Okada Books, BAM Books, and Smashwords, and the likes. Place your books on all those platforms so that you can have a very wide reach. Now you can start your journey to writing amazing children's books. I am so happy, with all of these things that I have said, you can confidently write that book, that memorable book, that book that children will love and enjoy. And you already understand who your target audiences are, the kind of children's books you can write, and all of those things. So if you have any question, please send in your question. I'd love to answer your questions. If you have any questions, please send in your questions. Please send in your questions. All right. While you're sending me your question, I will talk about things, one more thing, one more important thing. Okay. Question for young adult novels, do the characters have to be teenagers as well? Not necessarily, not every time. So there's a formula for writing young adult novels about your characters. Your characters should be 2 to 6 years, not all the time, but it's a great thing that works for young adult novels. Your characters should be 2 to 6 years older than your target audience, because those characters will be placed in positions your target audience has not yet been placed in, but they can learn from. So for instance, if you have an older sibling, there's a chance that you always look up to your older sibling like, oh man, I want to be like this person, or I like how this person does, or I want to be as grown as this person, or who. And then you're seeing that kind of character in a book. You can relate to that character. You can follow that character. You can say, yes, I'm learning from this person, or I'm learning from this character. So YA novels, characters can be teenagers or can be adults, but more often than not, they are teenagers or are young adults in their 20s. All right, I hope I answered that question. Well, I hope you understand. Please let me know if you understood my answer, or if you'd like me to go over it again. All right, while you're chatting, I'll wait for you. I want to talk about something important. One more important thing. Yes, to aid you fully and completely on your writing journey, I have designed a guide that has all you need to create mind-blowing children's books. Basically, this guide is everything you need. It's a manual. All you have to do is look through the guide and you will learn everything you need to learn on children's books. It will help you in your journey to creating any kind of children's book that you want to create. The guide is filled with everything you need to know, yes, to create a great book from start to finish with well-detailed examples and illustrations you can pattern your book after. Like I said, this guide basically gives great advice, gives things that you can do, what you should do to write amazing children's books. This is the guide. It's called How to Write for Children, the basics you need to know on writing and publishing children's books. The guide is 4,000 naira. It's a very comprehensive guide, but there is a discount, a 2,000 naira discount. So you get 50% off basically from December 12th, that's today, till December 20th. All right, you are going to see it pop up. Yes, you can just click on it. It's an offer. You can click on it now and you can buy your book. It is very affordable because you're learning so much from it, so much illustrations, so much, and you always have it permanently with you. So it's not something that you're like, oh, do I have access to this anymore? Unlike this webinar, you may not get access to it again, or you may, but this book is always with you permanently. This guide is always with you permanently. All right, so at this point, I have to say thank you for attending this webinar. I am so grateful. Again, I apologize for all the hiccups with network. It was so unfortunate, but I'm so glad that you were able to stay till this point. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I hope you learned a lot. I look forward to reading your reviews or hearing your reviews. You can always send a review to my Instagram page, Omotayo Kolio Show. Yes, my name on Instagram, and you can just tell me what you think or what you learned in this webinar. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for attending this webinar, and have an amazing evening. Okay, please. Okay, yes, you can get the link for the guide. Yes, it's in the offer. Have you seen the link now? Yes, you'll see the link. The link is live. Yes. All you have to do is click on the link and then you can purchase the guide. All right, Sin, thank you. Thank you so much for attending the webinar again. I really appreciate you. Have an amazing, amazing evening, and cheers to your success on writing for children. I look forward to reading your books and look forward to seeing your books across bookstores all over Nigeria, Africa, and globally. Have an amazing evening. Good night. Okay. All right. Good night. Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. I think I can leave the room now.